Yeah, like I used to be a massive commitment phobe.
Hang on.
And I was like, fuck it, if that makes me irrelevant, then I'm irrelevant.
If you take a sneak peek behind the scenes, it's absolute fucking chaos.
It's not speaking your truth that's going to ruin the relationship. Resentment is the thing that will ruin the relationship.
It's nothing personal. It's not about that other person. It's really about where am I pouring into?
Hold on. Let's just fucking start offending people. Like, stop settling. Stop settling for friendships where you feel like you're walking on eggshells. Stop settling, because I promise you there are friends out there that will be such great friends for you.
Yeah.
I really want people to hear that. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, babes. And in your new studio, this is incredible.
I know, it feels really fancy and legit, even though I literally don't even know how to turn the camera on. It's great.
I feel like you do know how to turn the camera on. I've been blown away by your knowledge here. So yeah, hats off to you, babe.
I'm just like regurgitating everything that I hear and pretending I know, but no, it feels amazing. And it just has taken a lot of the friction away, which I feel like I need to, like when there's a lot of friction, I'm like, I'll do it next week. But to have it that easy, I'm like, okay, I can be more consistent. It feels good.
Yeah, I love this. It's also got the boss babe energy in here.
Yeah.
Like as soon as I walked in, I was like, oh, it feels good.
So we just got back from Nashville. First time ever in Nashville. Oh my God, I loved it. Specifically Franklin.
Can we also just talk really quickly about how cool we are?
Yeah.
We booked a spontaneous trip as mums. Like, I feel like this is something that I'd given up for so long. And what was it? Within like an hour of having a chat, flights were booked.
For the day after.
Yeah.
I know. So context. So Alex, you were already in Nashville.
Yeah.
You were actually like driving to the airport and you just like, I was like, I really want to check out Nashville. I think it'd be really fun. You jokingly said you can join us. And I was sitting at the dinner table with Karen. She's my sister-in-law, and Noemi. And I was like, are you guys in? Is this? And they were like, yep. I mean, Noemi was like, yep. So we just went ahead and booked it, which is so amazing because I've not done anything like that since becoming a mum. I feel like I think I just get like in the past have gotten really intimidated with like all the baby packing and all the things and all the plans. Whereas before I had a baby, I'd be like, oh, I can do it tomorrow. Yeah. So good on us.
Good on us. And Franklin was so cute. Like very Gilmore Girls. We kept saying like Gilmore Girls energy. Like everything was decorated for Halloween, pumpkins everywhere.
Are we moving?
I didn't know whether to bring that part up. I was like, do I bring that part up? I'm pretty sold on Franklin.
I'm pretty sold.
Yeah.
But saying that, I'm sure it's going to be a very long-term thing. I'm in no rush, but I'm pretty sold. Listen, love Austin. It's amazing, but the heat is killing me. We were saying yesterday is 6 months of the year. It's unbearable outside.
I think that's been driven home a lot this year. Like I've realized I live somewhere that I actually have to leave like a couple of months of the year. And do I really want to feel like that? I think that's been a big wake-up call. We were in California this summer and like the switch from being in Austin to getting to California and going on family walks and taking the dogs for a walk and not worrying what time of day it was just so big. So yeah, I think the weather's a big appeal, but also Franklin's got this kind of like country home. It feels like a long-term place to be. It feels like legacy building. There's something really beautiful about it.
Yeah, which I'm like a commitment phobe, complete commitment phobe, which is so hilarious that I'm married. Like I'm just in my life a commitment phobe. It's so like me and Steven laugh about it. I don't even know if you know. So before I met Steven, I never even had a long-term phone contract. I wouldn't do it. I would never do a car on finance or anything. I would never do anything long-term.
Hang on. The funnels queen who is committed to her funnel and committed to her husband is actually a commitment phobe.
Yeah, like I used to be a massive commitment phobe. I don't know why. I just like would never commit to it. And when Steven met me, he was like, you pay month to month. I'm like, yeah, I don't want a contract. And then he's like, why don't you have a car? I'm like, oh, I just don't want a contract. Like I just didn't. And also wherever I've lived, I mean, me and Steven literally were at dinner one day when we lived in San Francisco and he was like, do you want to move to LA? And I literally was like, yeah. And he said, well, next month because I'll lease up. I'm like, yeah, sure. Like I've always been so willing to just like get up and move around. But being there, for the first time ever, I literally thought, you know what, this could be like my long-term place.
That's huge.
Huge.
That makes sense as well, because I know you've mentioned before about how not knowing whether you will be ever settled in one place kind of forever. And yeah, so for you to say that is, that's big, babe.
What about you? Could you see yourself in a place forever? Like, do you like the commitment of it? Like,
do you know what? I'm laughing at you being a commitment phobe, but I'm currently on a month-to-month phone. But that's because that was actually more related to like, it's so funny. Like if I want to do something, I will work out a way to do it. But there are some pieces of life admin that I'm just like, I can't be doing with. And when I got to America, they needed like my social number and I didn't have it yet. So I went on a month to month and I just never changed it.
I get that.
I just never changed. But in terms of living, I'd kind of accepted the same thing, that we would move around a lot. Like I always knew coming to Austin, it wasn't a forever place for us. It was very much, I was pregnant. We were living in this gorgeous apartment in Miami, but I was like, I can't have a baby here. And like Austin was an amazing community, like lots of people having families here. I am so grateful to Austin for that. Like it was the best place to have my son. Yeah, I'm grateful for that part of it. And it was never my forever place. But I do feel like if we do something in Franklin, it's gonna be such an outpouring of love as well, that I feel like that in itself is gonna give it roots. Because I think when you put that much love and that much energy and that much intention into something, there's a piece of your heart that you're kind of planting there. So I definitely see it as more long-term, and particularly with Leo, like not moving him around as much, I guess.
Yeah, you're right. Having kids definitely gives you more of that perspective, and like, God, the stuff I never thought I'd have to think about, like getting them on the school list and like getting them into
That stresses me out.
You don't want to like be moving them around, so they're like always starting new schools. Like it definitely, but like you say, it would be probably building something, and that is such a long project. It's like whatever time you think it's gonna take, what do they say, double it. So it's gonna be a long time, but it is pretty exciting. It's also, I don't talk shit on Austin, but it really did serve a purpose. For when we came, it was perfect for us. But reflecting, we were having dinner last night, and I was saying to Stephen, I actually do feel like being here contributed to my postpartum depression, because as I reflect on it, really, Austin is brutal from May to October. I mean, we're mid-October and it's 100 degrees almost outside. And so I had Noemi in the May, and it was so hot. I couldn't go out with a newborn. Yeah. So, recovering from a C-section, I probably didn't go outside for a few weeks anyway. And then when I was able to start walking, it was just way too hot to be outside, but way too hot for a newborn. The sun is beating down. So I remember just being stuck inside all the time and just thinking about, wanting to start planning for baby number 2. I don't want to be stuck indoors for 6 months. I'm such a nature person. I grew up in nature. Like you grew up in the UK, you grew up outside. Yeah. Like I was never allowed to just loiter around the house growing up. My mom was like, get out the house. Like,
but you didn't want to be in the house either at that point. You'd be like, yeah, I'll play on the street with my friends.
Yeah. And also people are probably listening being like, you don't know Nashville's hot. No, I totally get it. But like I can do 3 months. Yeah. Hot 3 months. A summer 3 months, you take vacations, whatever. It's when it's 6 months and it's half the time. Yeah. And right now I would say mornings are great and evenings aren't too bad, but I just don't want the restrictions. So yeah, anyway, Franklin.
Just to give that perspective as well, like it's so hot here. I can't walk my dogs past like 7 a.m. Yeah. Like guys, that's how hot it is. Like it burns their pores because it's too hot. So like when we say restricted, it's so restricted. And like, I was joking to you about this the other day. I currently go for pitch black walks with my family.
Well, let's talk about that pitch black walk and the little incident you didn't tell me until 2 days ago.
Yeah, I wasn't going to tell you about this. I ran over a snake with the stroller.
An alive one?
An alive one.
And it wasn't a tiny pencil snake?
No, it wasn't a tiny pencil snake. And it was actually so funny. It was so classic.
Oh yeah, it sounds hilarious. Oh my God.
Okay, funny on reflection, but I'm half asleep, guys. It's like, I don't know, 6 a.m. or something. It's pitch black outside. The car, I don't know why they built our house the way they built it, but it's a 2-car drive, but you can't actually fit 2 cars on and walk around them. So I'm on the grass verge in between our house and the house next door. I'm pushing the stroller, and all of a sudden I realize I've fully rolled over a snake. And then I'm like, Jake, I've just rolled over a snake. And he's panicking. He's like, move the stroller fast. But in my head, I'm panicking thinking, well, I don't want to anger the snake. So how do I do this like gently? So yeah, anyway, pitch black walk, rolling over snakes at 6 a.m.
Just to like get more specific, you guys, if you don't want to hear snake talk, skip for 2 minutes. But so the front wheels went over and then you had to like pull it back or
I had to pull it back.
Yeah, great.
I realized I was literally, the wheel was still over the snake.
Oh, I love that.
So then, I needed to fully pull it back and was then thinking, well, I don't want to anger the snake anymore. Have I killed this? I don't know what I'd done. And then Jake, classic husband, shouting in the background, faster. Afterwards, I spoke to him. I was like, Jake, just to clarify, when we are in a stressful situation, you shouting faster at me does not help. And he was like, yeah, okay, noted. But he had the dog. So he was like, I can't come over. The dog, snake,
Right.
it's all going to be a thing. But he's been thoroughly schooled on how to react in stressful situations.
I mean, I remember being 9 months pregnant and there was a rattlesnake on our driveway.
No, you can't move fast at that point either.
No, not at all. And then it was like 2 days after, again, 9 months pregnant, we were driving and there was probably a 6-foot snake on the road.
Oh, no. 6 foot's too far.
Texas is like Australia.
Yeah. I know I've seen more wildlife here than when I lived in Australia.
Yeah.
For sure. And we get scorpions in the house. Like I sent a video the other day to my parents, just scorpion casually in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Like the wildlife is real here.
I will say, just for people listening, we live out in the sticks. So it's not like we're in the city center. Like that's not going to happen if you're in the city center or if you're in like a very well-developed neighborhood. We are literally surrounded by a green belt.
Yeah.
We are out in the sticks. So just clarifying, but also I'm just like having these conversations that I feel like, listen, that's just what Austin is. In the heat, like that just is. Of course, you're not going to get the snakes if you're in a certain area, but it just is what it is. Anyway.
I love the heat as well, but it's intense, it's long. So yeah, I'm excited. Maybe Franklin's the place.
I do love the humidity here though. I always feel like my skin's really soft. It never gets dry. When I go to desert, I'm like, oh, I literally have aged overnight.
I've not noticed this. I need to pay more attention.
I notice it. I'm like, maybe I'm just extra sensitive, but I notice it right away.
I'm not gonna lie, we're at that point where we want to keep the skin nice. We don't want to be aging overnight.
Anyway, the reason that I asked you last minute to like come around to my house and record this was because we were in Nashville and we were on a little stroller walk and we were having a conversation because I do think we've had some parallel journeys, like different people, different timelines, but we've had parallel journeys that have led us to probably a similar place of kind of letting go of the idea of everyone having to like us, being okay, being disliked, being okay, being misunderstood. I will say that's probably one of the learnings I'm happiest to have received in the last couple of years is actually like, I don't need to defend myself. Like I trust that the people who know me. I don't need to people please to make people like me. And I really get to stop self-neglecting and really think about what's true for me.
And did you feel like that straight away with this? Like, what was that process? Because I think you can listen to that now. I know even for me, like 6, 8, 12 months ago, if I'd heard that, I would have been like, that sounds amazing, but like, how?
Yeah, no, I didn't. I think it was a long, painful process. Like
keeping it real, guys.
Yeah, actually, no, I think it was a really long, painful process. I mean, I will say this all for me comes down to identity. So I would say, I'll tell mine then, maybe you could tell yours and we can see the parallels also. I felt like my identity really got shook up when I became a mum. Yeah. And I kind of just had this feeling of I don't know who I am. And I had this, like, the way I can visualize it is just all these layers that I've put on myself of shoulds, like so many layers. And I was like, I need to shed these shoulds. Like, who am I at my core without, I should be this kind of way. I should do this. I should say yes to this. Yeah. I should act this kind of way. At my core, who am I? What is my identity? And it started there. And then part of that was realizing that there were some relationships in my life that actually weren't built on me being fully authentic, and they were built on, this relationship is so successful because I am not speaking my truth, and realizing that actually some relationships in my life weren't there anymore when that relationship didn't benefit that other person, right? And that was me. Like, there is no one else to blame here. That was me. That was the way that I showed up. And there were times when if I brought certain things to conversations in certain relationships, if someone had a big emotional reaction, I would shut down. And I'd be like, you know what? I can deal with it, so I'm not going to make them take it on. Yeah. That was all me. You know, I let that be okay, and I set the standard for what was okay in my relationship. So that was one pocket of it. I had that big realization around my relationships. And a second pocket of it was, quite frankly, my ego and my identity was tied to boss babe. And so I was very used, and this is me being totally honest, I was very used to, like, I can get in any room I want to get in. I can be invited on any podcast I want to be on, you know, this, that, the other, because I'd built a really well-known brand and it opened a lot of doors for me. And I think that became part of my identity. And when I walked away from boss babe, I had a complete identity crisis. I was like, fuck, who am I without all of this?
Yeah.
Who am I without any of the followers or the podcast or any, or a successful business? Like, will anyone give a shit?
Yeah.
And then I got to the place of, if people only want to invite me somewhere because of that, that's not my person. That's not my room. But it's all well and good saying that, but that was not an overnight process. This was like a whole... oh my God, like I'm unraveling, like all this stuff. But what's really beautiful about it is when I did end up buying the company and coming back, I'd already done that work and I was no longer attached to it, which so funny. I just was voice noting one of my friends this morning and I was saying, you know, we're having our biggest year in Boss Babe ever in terms of top line revenue, profit, but also for me in terms of freedom, happiness, all the things, which is wild because this is the one year that I've said no to the masterminds. I've said no to the invites, haven't been doing all these big fancy podcasts, all these big fancy guests. I haven't done any like affiliate launches. I haven't asked anyone for any favors. I just watered my own grass and really hibernated, quite frankly. And I think I had this, I wasn't even a fear. I was like, you know, if that's the outcome, great. I felt like being in that place and hibernating a little bit and honoring what was true for me would mean that like maybe my business slows down or maybe I'm irrelevant or whatever. And I was like, fuck it. If that makes me irrelevant, then I'm irrelevant. Love that for me. Like I just got to that place because I did the work, but it was like hard.
Yeah.
So that's mine. And then I'm curious for you, like, so that I would say the thread that started unraveling it all was identity. And like everything else was a byproduct. Like there's no relationship I can blame, no person I can blame, but it started as an identity thread and really unraveled to like, oh, if I like me, I'm good.
Yeah. Massively. I just want to say, like, reflecting on that outside looking in as well. I know you've shared a podcast on this already, so like people can go back and listen to that one, but you said about how the happiest people you know are slowing down. And I've really seen in you, everything's exploding, amazing, but you are so happy and so calm. And I also just want to share that as someone who's actually close to you, because I think it's very easy for someone to share on the internet a very curated version of their life that looks happy and calm. But if you take a sneak peek behind the scenes, it's absolute fucking chaos. And there's a difference between that and genuinely someone who is embodying freedom. You speak so much about freedom and helping other women create freedom. Like you're actually embodying that and seeing you embodying that. And it's one of those like cycles as well. I know you said, oh, it can make me irrelevant, but I feel like it's actually made you more successful and more like, you know, actually just seeing that cycle complete in that way.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you just keeping it real, babes. But in terms of, for me, I think identity was definitely a piece. I didn't know who I was either after I became a mother, but it felt like quite a slow unraveling. I think I was so determined to just be who I'd been before. I was like, okay, cool, baby's here, let's get back at it. And it was over a longer period of time that I was like, oh, I can't just get back at it. Oh, all these things that excited me before don't excite me anymore. All these things that I used to do. And the reason I bring that in is I realized how much energy I was expending that I no longer had. So I always think of it in terms of like energy in, energy out. I was putting all this energy out and it was fine previously because I could refill my own cup because I had oodles of free time compared to what I now had. Now I didn't have that free time and actually I was pouring my energy into my child as well. There wasn't that gap where I could just refill all that energy I was putting out. And that was such a wake-up call for me of like, okay, well, what situations, what people, what everything in my life is more energy out than it's giving me back. And that was one of the biggest wake-up calls of like, I used to have the excess energy to deal with this shit. I actually just don't have it anymore. And having to get brutal about it. And things that I would get upset about or worry about previously, I did still worry about for a while after becoming a mum. Really, really worried about. But there just came a point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. This is making me miserable. And this is then leaking into my relationship. It's leaking into my relationship with my son. Like, embarrassing to admit, but there was a couple of evenings where I would be so anxious about a situation I had going on that I felt like I couldn't mother. I felt like I couldn't be present with Jake because I was so anxious. And I was like, that was the wake-up call. Sometimes you have to get so low that you're like, I am not doing this. I have a beautiful son. I have a beautiful husband. I've created a really beautiful life. I get to enjoy this. I'm not ruining it because of other people's stuff and other people's drama.
I actually love that you shared that specifically though around there being a couple of evenings where you maybe have been wrapped up in something else that you can't be present with your kids, because I remember being in those situations too and just having that like visceral out of body experience of hold on.
Yeah.
Let me just take a beat and look around at the life I've created, like married to my soulmate in this beautiful house that we've built, you know, got the most precious baby in front of me. And I'm wrapped up in this. So inconsequential. But I do feel like, and maybe for us, it just took having kids, maybe for other people, it doesn't, but just it took maybe being in that situation for me to realize how much time I was spending on inconsequential things and like didn't have that energy.
Yeah. And also, you've spoken to me about this before, but like walking on eggshells energy.
Oh, let's get into that because that's a big thing.
Well, I really remember there was a day where you sent a message and you were like, I'm just gonna be real, I don't have the energy to walk on eggshells. And that was such an aha for me. I'll let you share about it because it was your message. You go first.
There was just this this group thing that had happened. There was like a really big group thread and someone else had brought something into the group that someone that wasn't even in the group had like mentioned they were hurt by or whatever. And what my interpretation of the events was, this person had completely assumed negative intent of a bunch of us in the group that wasn't there. And I think if that person really knew us, they'd know, like, we're not thinking negative, like there was no negative intent. And so I listened to that. They brought this whole thing. They're feeling this. They said this, da 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 da. I listened to it all. I did my own inquiry, like, wait, did I fuck up here? Like, was this really shady?
Which is important.
Yeah.
I think in this whole conversation, that's a really important piece. This isn't saying you don't do any inventory. So I think it's really important you brought that up.
Totally. I was like, wait, did I fuck up here? Or was this totally innocent? Like, was this just like an innocent situation where we perhaps acted in one way and the other person seen it through their lens, and which, by the way, I do all the time. And they've internalized it a certain way. They've made it mean something, but then just, you know, assuming negative intent. And that's ultimately what it was. But I had a very like deja vu moment there of, this is exactly what I'm no longer available for because I've dealt with this too many times.
Yeah.
And I'm not available to walk on eggshells. And I just sent a very, very clear message back saying, hey, this person wants to address it. Great, but they can do so without their own projection of like, we're all acting in this kind of way and this is what happened. Like, cool, come with your curiosity and come with your personal feelings. Yeah. But I am unavailable to walk on eggshells in my relationships. And if that's what it's going to be, this is not going to work for me.
Yeah.
And just really nip it in the bud right then and there. And it did. But I have been in relationships where I am walking on eggshells. And I even shared this with Lindsay just in a work setting. And I've had this multiple times in work settings where I would get messages saying, hey, can we hop on a call? And
even when you repeat that sentence, the anxiety that floods my body.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And I had that so much because I knew what the calls were going to be. And it's like, this is not one person. This is clearly something that I have had to work on. So I've replicated this in multiple areas in my life. But like, there was that thing, can we hop on a call? And I always knew it would be a thing.
Yeah.
And so I'd get the message and my whole body would feel sick.
Yeah.
And I even said to Lindsay, I was like, by the way, when you keep saying this to me, like, you don't need to change anything, but I feel like I need to build trust with you that it's not going to be something bad. It's not going to be eggshell related. Yeah. And now I'm at a place with her where I just know that's the case. Like, I know when she messages that, I'm like, oh, she got a night. Like, it's something fun. And and I've really healed that. But fuck, that was a deep one.
Do you know what? I so get it. I've even had it where Jake will message me something and I panic and I've literally exactly the same thing. It is like, not to put like too strong a word on it, but it's that kind of like trauma of the repeated energy of like, oh, what have I done this time? Like, what's it going to be now? Big energy out. But I think there's a really important piece to mention there as well in terms of like getting to that point of, you said then that you'd had this situation come up repeatedly because it was clearly something you needed to heal. Well, same. Like, I had this situation show up in multiple ways, and full transparency, most of the time I took the easy path. Most of the time I was like, I don't want drama. I hate arguing with people. Like, I just want a peaceful life in general. Because my ethos in general is that life will bring you shit. Things will happen because life's going to life. Things naturally happen. So as much as possible outside of that, I want to curate a really peaceful life. That I'd be in these situations. And it took me actually leaning in and actually being okay with the confrontation, being okay with the really shitty conversation, but being okay to lose that person. Because I'd realized I'd been on autopilot previously of trying to fix, trying to repair, trying to save. And actually it was really the point where I said, you know what, if this person can't meet me in the standards that I want to hold in my life and the values that I uphold as well, then I have to be okay with letting them go, and I'm okay with that. And then that shifts everything.
Oh, there's so much to unpack in that. Like being okay losing a relationship. That is, I think that sometimes is the place that you need to get to, but it's really hard. I remember finding that really, really challenging. And same thing, I would get myself into these situations because I would choose the easy path.
Yeah.
And I remember having this feeling that, or this thought of, if I just do my own work constantly, then the relationship will be in a better place for it. Like if I don't bring my stuff to the relationship and I deal with my stuff and I don't bring it to the relationship, everything will be fine. And what I realized is it's not speaking your truth that's going to ruin the relationship. Resentment is the thing that will ruin the relationship. And whether you're doing your own work or not, you're building resentment.
Yeah.
And that's what I was doing because I was choosing the easy path and I was not willing to lose the relationship. I wasn't willing to rock the boat.
Yeah.
I just always want an easy life. And as soon as I did, I lost a big relationship. And that was like, oh, so was that relationship real? You know, like, was that built on full truth and authenticity? Like, you don't really know until you fully show up real.
I was laughing at the beginning of that because I can so hard relate. But I also do think this is where we can be a little bit toxic with ourselves with the personal development. We said earlier, always take inventory. Like, be honest, like, have you been shitty? Like, no one likes a dick, don't be a dick. But like, at the same time, I had a conversation with my therapist and she was like, Alex, like, you're literally gaslighting yourself. Like, you are so trying to skip to what you could have done wrong, where you can take inventory, where you need to work on yourself. You're not seeing the black and white of the situation where actually someone's just done something really shitty. And that needs to be felt and that needs to be acknowledged. So I really do think there is just a piece as well of like, yes, working on ourselves, but also like, is someone treating you in a subpar way? Are they doing it repeatedly? They're showing you who they are in doing that. And I'm really curious for you, because you mentioned them being okay with losing it, but like, was there a grief in that process?
Massive. And I think it just came in so many different waves and so many different ways and showed up very differently. But yeah, 100%. I mean, like when I'm in friendship, I'm in. Like I'm all in. Capricorn, loyal, just I'm all in. My relationships mean everything to me. And honestly, that's a reason I don't feel like I can have a lot of them. Because when I'm in, I'm like, I am just take a stand for you. Like, I just want to be I want to be a really, really great friend. And so I'm very cautious about how many close friends I have because I just know how much energy that I pour into it. And so when I was faced with losing a relationship, I mean, it was devastating. Absolutely devastating. Do you know what? Like, even looking back in hindsight and saying, well, what about this thing? And what about this thing? And yeah, there was problems, but it doesn't make it easier. Losing a relationship, I don't think. What about you?
I mean, same, but I think we also just don't talk about it enough. I think we talk about heartache in terms of like a romantic relationship, but our friends are some of the greatest loves of our lives as well. And so when that falls apart, like it is painful and definitely grief, definitely sadness. But I think a real thing for me has been learning to separate the grief from the situation. It's like acknowledging I can feel sad, I can miss parts of that friendship, whilst also knowing that actually that's a separate emotion to necessarily wanting to repair and bring that back into my life. Those don't have to be one and the same thing.
Yeah, what I had to really check myself on multiple times is when I was feeling grief, it was so easy to look back at things with rose-tinted glasses and gaslight myself into things weren't that bad. Like, very, very easy. But I had a friend go through a divorce a few years ago and she had such a good perspective on it. She said, I'm not going to see this as a failed marriage because actually we were together for a really long time and it was a success, but it has come to an end. And I've been able to reframe relationships that I've lost as they weren't failed relationships. Actually, that was so amazing for that time in my life. And like, there are so many amazing memories, no matter how you look back at it with all the new perspective, there was so much good that came from the relationships that I want to look at it in that way and see it as like, you know what, that was a successful friendship, but it was not meant to be forever. And that helps. But I think I do have to check myself on the rose-colored glasses because I can also just, you know, I can deal with it. I could like, and I'm like, no.
And I think there's also space in that. I love that like perspective shift. I think there's space in that as well for the relationship to evolve into something else. Like I've had friendships that have come to an end, but we're still part of groups or we're going to see each other at weddings and like big group things. And instead of having animosity there, which probably as a younger self, I might have done, I might have been like, no, like it's awkward or it's quits. Like also being like, do you know what? Like I can have an arm's length friendship with this person or I know what it is. And I just wanted to bring that up as well because I think you make a really good point about having the people who are close to you, I think there's almost like an expectation. I don't know if we get this through social media or where it's really come from, but that we should be over social beings with this huge friendship group of all best friends. And I don't know, again, maybe it's motherhood, maybe it's different things, but that's not practical for me. Like, I cannot pour into so many friends in such a deep way, and that actually exhausts me and it doesn't feel good. So I really resonate with what you were saying then, in terms of like, also, you know, actually knowing who I'm going to pour into and being okay with not being able to pour into everyone and just accepting that, and also loving myself even though I can't do that, has been a big, big shift.
Yeah, you said that on one of your podcast episodes, which, by the way, it's upgrade season. Go find it. You said on one of your podcasts it was about being disliked, the concept of not everyone needs to be a best friend. And you'd mentioned specifically going to retreat and making friends, but like, you're not going to be texting them and it's not going to be a close relationship. But I think you're right that I know when I lived in LA, this was a big thing, but also I didn't have kids, and like I had more time in my hands, but I would meet so many people at dinners and networking things and masterminds that I like wanted to be friends with everyone. And before I knew it, I had so many friends, but so few close friends because I was too busy trying to keep up.
And if you're honest with yourself, I'm curious about this, how many of those people did you, full body, full heart, full soul, actually want to hang out with?
I mean, you can imagine.
Yeah, I feel like we've all done it at some point in our lives where we've poured in and actually were like, and that's another big thing, like checking in, like, do I actually want to hang out with them, or do they want to? This sounds so awful and egotist. I'm going to say it though. Do you actually want to hang out with them, or do they want to hang out with me? I realize as part of this process, a lot of people wanted to be friends with me. Not because I think I'm special or anything like that. I think actually, like, I like a conversation. I love getting to know people. And I think that can be rare, maybe. I'm trying to work out why it is.
Because I think you're a good friend and people can see that.
Yeah, but actually, someone wanting to be friends with you is different to you wanting to be friends with them. And I think that does need to be pointed out, because I think often it's very easy to get caught up in the excitement of like the rush of a new friendship. But actually, if you sit back, is that someone that you want to pour into for the next 5, 10, 15 years? And it feels really good on both sides.
Yeah. And I mean, I even remember just being at masterminds and meeting tons of people and then thinking, oh, I should follow up with them. And I was like, wait, should? Why?
Yeah.
For what reason?
Yeah.
Because like, is this a business relationship that you think is going to benefit you? Like, come on.
Or the people pleasing, like, will they think I wasn't friendly if I don't follow up with them, or if I don't message them, or, you know, like all these worrying perceptions about, but I realized, you know about this, but I unfollowed everyone on Instagram recently.
Yeah, talk about this.
So I literally unfollowed everyone and everything on Instagram. And one of the things I realized was I was following people because I'd literally met them once and was worried if I unfollowed them, they'd be offended. That's exhausting.
It's ridiculous, but we all do it.
It's so exhausting. When I then zoomed forward and was like, okay, 5, 10, 15, am I sat having dinner with these people? Are these people part of my family or my close-knit friendship group? Probably not. Doesn't mean I don't wish them well. Doesn't mean that maybe if we're in the same city, we can hang out or catch up. Like, it's nothing personal. It's not about that other person. It's really about, where am I pouring into?
There's so much in that. And I just think like really having the acknowledgement that you are going to have a close friend circle and just being really discerning about that. And then there are going to be rings outside that where you maybe have neighbors or you have work friends or whatever, and the circles will keep expanding. You'll have acquaintances, whatever it is, but just having that discernment around who is who and where they fit into each bucket. Because I remember just putting everyone into the close bucket because I didn't want to leave anybody out.
Come on in, guys.
Yeah. Oh, you know, if I'm inviting that person, I have to invite that person and I don't want to leave them out. And it would just snowball into this, wait a minute, this event's for everybody but me. People talk about that with their weddings all the time, where they just like invite everyone and because they don't want to offend people. And I just think, let's just fucking start offending people.
Oh my God, I love that. Let's just, honestly, but this is a thing. Like, this is maybe a sign for someone listening as well, whether you're a people pleaser or not. Because if you think about your wedding, now some people will want 180 people at their wedding. But if you would secretly only want 30 people at your wedding, but you would be too scared to only invite 30 people to your wedding, that's a red flag. And that was me, you know, like it's I'm scared to offend people. I'm scared what people think. I think you're really good at this as well. And something you really helped me with perspective on is in friendships as well. It should be okay to hang out like with other friends and it not be a big drama.
Yeah, like if you're in a friendship group and you want to go one-on-one, like you don't have to invite everyone everywhere.
Yeah, because I think actually being secure in your friendships, it doesn't have to become, oh, left out or anything like that. Like, no, like let's not deep everything. Like sometimes it's just casual, you know?
Totally. And I get it. Like I think as women, I mean, when you're a girl and you're at school, girls at school get bitchy.
Oh my
and
God, they're brutal.
it's hard.
Yeah.
Like I remember so many times where the worst was being in a friendship group of 3 of us.
Yeah.
And like at some point, someone always felt left out, like
Yeah.
always. But then you get into adulthood and you've got to realize, you know what? We're not in school anymore. That's not serving me. Like I need to really trust. And by the way, if you can't, then maybe that's a red flag. I need to be able to trust that my friends love me and they care about me and they would never leave me out intentionally. And if they want to hang out with somebody else, that doesn't mean anything about me. It just means they want to hang out. But then if you are the person listening, you're like, I feel really shit when my 2 friends hang out without me. Maybe that's a bit of a red flag to you of like, well, are they really your great friends? Do you know what I mean? Like, do you really trust them? Do you feel that relationship is reciprocal? Like, or is that coming from an old childhood wound? Like there's so much inquiry we can do around this.
100%. I think it's worth noting on that situation as well. Like, are you ever the person reaching out? Because I've also had situations where people will get like offended and it's like, okay, but like I'm constantly.
Right.
And I think that can be exhausting as well. Like maybe be the person to bring people together as well, rather than waiting for the invite. I've definitely done that before where I've lacked confidence and I haven't felt confident inviting people. And actually it's a self-fulfilling prophecy because people misinterpret that as like a coldness or a distancing. Right. Actually, it's a lack of confidence. So like maybe if you are in that situation, well, like stepping into a more confident version of yourself and actually being like, do you know what? I'm going to be the person to like invite everyone to get together. Like I did this becoming an entrepreneur. I had no entrepreneurial friends. This is wild. I swear I've told you this before. So I was in the Boss Bay membership and I actually wrote in the group being like, hey, is anyone in London? Do you all want to meet up? And like just created a meetup of like loads of people because I didn't have any friends who are entrepreneurs. And like putting it out there, actually being the one to do that.
I love that. And for everyone listening too, you know, maybe friendship is a bit of a sticking point for you. I just want to say you do deserve really great friends and really great friendships. And just like we would say about romantic life, like please stop settling for shitty friendships. Like stop settling for friendships where you feel like you're walking on eggshells, where you feel like you can't be yourself, where you feel like, you know, if you're not benefiting that other person, then they don't want to be your friend. Like stop settling, because I promise you there are friends out there that will be such great friends for you.
Yeah. 100%.
I really want people to hear that.
I think that's such an important point. Like, I think there's so much information given to us now as well around romantic relationships and like so many red flags in romantic relationships. What about red flags in fucking friendships? You know, like no one educates us on this, and people talk about narcissists in romantic relationships. What about the narky friends? You know?
The narky friends.
No, but it is. Like, it's a thing and no one talks about it. So we're here like raising our standards for romance. We've got to raise our standards for friendship too.
No narky friends.
No narky friends.
I'm curious, how do you deal with all of the texting? Because, okay, full transparency, the amount of unread texts in my phone, it's ridiculous. And like unresponded to texts, and not because I don't want to respond, but like I feel like there's a small group of people on my phone that like when I see their notification, I always open it. I'm like fast to respond. And then there's other people that it's like, okay, I'm going to go on a walk next week. I'm going to listen to them and like get back. But I just feel like I have such a compressed window. I'm not on my phone when I'm with Noemi, which is mornings and nights. And during the day, I'm like trying to cram as much work or self-care or life into that time that there's just not a lot of texting time. And I've had to really learn to be okay with that, but I don't think it's easy.
Yeah. And I don't think other people are necessarily okay with that. That's my experience of it.
Tell me.
Well, I'm the same. I'm baffled how people manage to respond to all their text messages. Like that is a skill I just haven't mastered for the exact reasons you say. I'm not on my phone in the morning or the evening because I'm with my child. And then in the day, I'm trying to get as much work done and maybe get to a Pilates class or do something for myself as well. Like I've not got time to just be like sat going through 63 unread WhatsApps. And I have a couple of people who I will respond to straight away. And then apart from that, maybe if you're in the top 3 messages on WhatsApp, I'll manage to see it and get back to it. But I'm terrible with it as well. And I've accepted it in myself. I think other people do struggle with it still. Like I've definitely had chats with friends where they're like, Alex, you are so shit at texting.
And it like upsets them.
It upsets them. I've had some like really bad conversations with friends where they're like, Alex, like this isn't okay. And honestly, I've just reached the point where I'm like, yeah, but like the alternative is, there isn't really an alternative.
You put on TV for your kid,
yeah,
so you can sit texting back.
Or I text back at 7, 8 p.m. at night when I am so brain dead. I'm telling you now, if I sit on my phone texting back for the 2 hours in the evening, I'm going to have a crying meltdown the next day. Like that's just not good for my brain. My brain doesn't work like that. So I just feel like, well, this is just my reality right now, you know, and I accept it. I don't know. I don't have a good answer, to be honest.
Maybe this is why we're friends.
Yeah, maybe this is why we're friends. Because like we get, but also I don't expect other people to text me back.
No, I don't either. Like,
and I don't read into it.
When people say, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm like, you do not need to apologize for living your life.
Oh my God.
Don't apologize.
So I had this with a friend. We won't respond to each other for ages at a time and then we'll respond. And we made a rule that we don't apologize to each other. Do you know how good that friendship feels for both of us?
I like that.
We're both busy and we just don't chill. What are your tips on this? Like, how do people get arsey with you or people just chill?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm oblivious. Honestly, no, I'm a little bit oblivious because
They've texted you it, but you've not read it.
I'm not on my phone that much.
Yeah.
I really am not. Like for me, my phone is most often work.
Yeah.
If I'm on my phone, it's Slack, emails, Instagram. I don't really do it socially. So I just don't know. There are friendships, I will say, that since I've moved to Austin, I have, because I'm not a texter, I feel like I'm not checking in with those friends as often. And I do miss that. I miss them. But it's hard because I'm not on my phone. So I need to figure that out of like, okay, is it that we get together in person? Is it that we do phone calls?
Yeah.
What is it? How can do we do coffee catch-ups on Zoom? What is it?
Yeah.
And how do I solve that? But there's only a couple of those. But yeah, like I'm just not on my phone.
I'm also just an in-person person. Like I would much
Me too.
rather. Okay, I feel like maybe you'll get this. I also just don't get what people text about all the time.
No, I don't know. Honestly, I just don't. If there's someone listening that is really like, is that person is a prolific texter and always gets back, send us your like how you do it, because
please,
maybe they've got it down and we're just missing something.
There is no question I find harder than how are things with you.
I know. I'm like, well,
where do I begin?
Yeah, I mean, depends. On what level are we going to?
Right now, in this moment? Yesterday? This morning?
You know what else I've stopped doing? I just noticed this yesterday when I went to Dry Bar to get my hair done. I read my book. I sat in silence.
Yeah.
I thought. I got up, I left.
Yeah.
A previous version of me would have took my laptop and been like, okay, I've got an hour. Let me maximize this time. I didn't use that time to reply to all my texts, which I probably could have. I didn't use it to catch up on all my work, which I probably could have.
Yeah.
I was like, this is an hour just for me.
Yeah.
Let me sit and sort through my thoughts. Like I always think about my thoughts as like a filing cabinet, and like I just like things to be organized.
Capricorn, by the way.
I need things to be organized in there.
Even her thoughts were organized, guys.
Yeah, so like I drove there. I didn't listen to a podcast on the way. I didn't listen to music. I sat there in silence. I was like, sort my thoughts out. I get there. Okay, no, this is niche, and you might think that I'm so weird, but I need to bring it up because this was my process at Dry Bar. I'm like, fuck, I'm either so weird or I'm not. Okay. So I was like I was like drove there in silence, fully in the moment, went and sat, about to get my hair washed. So many, many years ago, when I was getting my hair washed, I wouldn't want to like close my eyes and fully relax because I wouldn't want to seem weird. Like as if closing my eyes is just like really weird. So I would keep my eyes open to be like, you know, I'm still here. I'm still present. And then yesterday I was just like eyes closed, like fully nodding off while I'm having my hair washed. And I was like, wow, this is great. I used to be like this.
Oh my God, this is hilarious. Firstly, because why do we overthink the most random social
I would think like, does she think I'm enjoying this too much? She's sending me to sleep.
But also, I really think there's a version of this where it was probably really creepy. You're just there with your eyes open.
Wait, so you've always closed your eyes?
I think so. I think it's probably a bit weird with your eyes open. Just like, can you imagine massaging someone? Hang on, now we need a hairdresser to text us. Like, what's the etiquette? Is it eyes open?
I need to know.
Eyes closed. But can you imagine massaging someone?
Oh, I'd be on my phone or I'd be talking to them.
I mean, that's more normal. But I know, I think eyes closed is legit. Babe, I'm there. I'm like moaning. I'm like, that feels So good. I love a head massage. Can't get enough.
Moaning, are you like a massage moaner?
Oh, babe, if you massage my head, I'm like, oh, yeah. And then I tell them that it's like my favorite thing in the world.
Wow.
Maybe I'm just like the really creepy person when you get your hair done. But
No, I need to know. Hairdressers, please message us.
do you not find it so relaxing though?
No, I do. But I was like, oh, in the past, I'd like be on my phone. I'm like, why have I been letting this moment pass me by?
Yeah.
Out of productivity. So I like got my hair washed. I sat there, put my phone down. I just like sat. You know, I didn't watch TV. I was just sitting there, just sorting my thoughts out. I'm like, why did I used to be so obsessed with habit stacking and productivity? Like,
Yeah.
this is way nicer. So no, I didn't get any text reply to. I didn't get any shit done. I came home and I was like, well, I'm really behind on all my phone stuff, but my hair looks good and I feel good.
Do you know, I have found that hard previously in the past. That as a reflection though, where if I'm like put on Instagram that I'm doing something but I haven't texted someone back, I used to feel guilty about that as well, which I just bring up in case anyone else is in that place still. I don't feel that anymore. I'm like, no, like I am not tracking your hour by hour day and thinking, well, you could have texted me in that pocket or you could have done this in this pocket. Yeah. No. So like no one's going to be doing it to me. So like just letting it drop. But you did this post this morning, which I absolutely loved. It was like a carousel. And one of them was about the overproductivity thing. And I feel like this is the new way of being productive, is being like underproductive at times. Because I think it's so exhausting for us to constantly be on, constantly consuming as well. I think we can get so much more creative. Like, I know you say, oh, you did nothing in that time. You just enjoyed the process. You read your book. But I feel like it's that thing, like, if you ask me on a surface level, but if you ask me on a deeper level, but I do feel like on a deeper level for you, that's probably fed you and fueled you in a multitude of ways that maybe might not be as tangible or immediate to see. But that is so valuable. Like, we can't just measure our value by what's the immediate effect of something.
No, actually it did. And then driving back, I called Lindsay and I was like, oh, I've had this idea. Like, but I would never have had that had I was just like sitting, getting through my to-do list.
Yeah.
Not saying I don't have to get through my to-do list, but like just not every day is going to be a productive day.
Yeah. But I also love that you put in that post about not reaching inbox zero anymore. And that's the same for me. Like, okay, I was never at inbox zero, but I would need to get through my to-do list. And it's actually a Brendan planner that I use.
I love that one, the high performance planner.
Yeah. And it has this question. It's like 3 things to do today. And then it's like, what absolutely needs to be done today? And asking myself that has been a game changer, because I realize how unurgent so many things are. And realizing that lack of urgency just soothes my entire system, but also makes me so much more productive and so much more creative.
Oh, amen. Well, I love this chat.
Same.
I feel like this was very cathartic, but I really hope people listening, like, they can maybe stop being so hard on themselves.
Yeah.
And I think we do it more as women.
Yeah.
I will be honest, than men. I think we can be so hard on ourselves.
Yeah. I think being hard on yourself, but also I think hold higher standards. I think that's a really big piece. I think really start to notice in your body who you actually enjoy being around, who refuels you, who energizes you versus who leaves you feeling depleted. But then also thinking, okay, well, if you're holding romantic standards, what are the standards you're going to hold in other places of your life? And I know we spoke about friendship today and you touched on business, but that also might be in business, team members, things like this.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about team, but I think it's still so relevant.
Yeah. Massively.
High standards.
High standards.
We're going into 2025 with high standards.
Yeah, and start now. Don't wait for New Year to like raise the standards. I think this is something that we can begin in this moment right now.
I love it. Well, where can everyone find you?
I'm on Instagram more than I should be after saying how little I'm on my phone. I am Alexandra Maria, or Talking Too Much on It's Upgrade Season.
I love your podcast, by the way, so everyone go listen. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, babe.